Hello and welcome to another scene for the Living World of Darkness, Changeling the Dreaming 20th Anniversary Edition venue set in the Kingdom of Apples. Today's scene takes place in the city of Queens, the freehold of Baroness Mariposa. It shines with the qualities of the freeholds merged with it. The efforts of one knight, Araris, to create a thorp, a manor. So, well, the prominent features certainly reflect that of Mariposa, a certain delicate beauty, the smell of spices in the air. There are also traits that reflect the other barons and one troll who are connected. There's also the slight medicinal scent in the air, mingling with the spices, a trait from the cauldron houses of Duran. It is a warm summer day in Queens. The humidity lingers in the air, making it so thick you can almost taste it. And visiting today is Cararis.
Tired, worn down. He had managed to get some sleep the night before, but even when rested, it was that feeling that it still wasn't enough. And going to sleep that night reawakened and reopened those pathway of nightmares and dreams. So far, at the very least, he's been able to maintain some measure of himself. But even then, it's hard to focus. And that battle has been a hard-fought one to keep himself knowing that the dreams ended, knowing that this waking moment is his place. It's fascinating now, actually. It's the last time there was a week of these nightmares. Not quite similar, not the same as Mara's. He had lost himself in those dreams, but perhaps now it's because of his better understanding of his position and knowing that he's not going back to Arcadia, and there's maybe not a better path, but a more purposeful path that he's walking on. That's keeping him a little more grounded, realizing, rationalizing. He doesn't want to get too certain of himself because it's still something that's wearing him down. Still, he's making his way to Mariposa's freehold, and as he breathes in, he can smell the sense of those spices, those medicinal qualities, and looking at how much it's changed since that time he was there, how much it's expanded, how much it's grown, his efforts having been born particular fruit. And he can't help but smile before making his way in to speak with the Baroness himself. Herself, yes. He himself is going to speak to her. That's correct. There we go. Correct my language.
The guards, Mariposa's guards, not many of them, will announce your presence to her. She's not in an office or in a throne room, but rather outside, sort of sitting on a bench. It's backless because wings.
Mm-hmm.
And trying hard to focus on a book.
Good afternoon, my lady, he says as he gives the appropriate level of bowing to her. May I sit with you a while?
Please, please.
It's fluent Spanish, by the way.
Por favor. ¿Cómo estás, caballero? How are you doing, knight?
Unfortunately, my Spanish is still not that good. It's like de nada is the farthest I can go. He gives a sigh and he goes, "To be honest, it's been rough these last few weeks, but I've managed to at least keep myself from blurring the lines of reality."
I've heard rumors that there are some who are finding ways to pad themselves from these nightmares.
Yes, I've spoken with one who has been I'm actually trying to remember if Misha had mentioned she was doing the circle or not. That's another thing I don't remember. So, well, I'll just say, I've heard rumors, at least in Brooklyn, that they've at least established a barrier around at least one freehold. But that is a oh yeah, I remember now. It's like, but that is very costly and only temporary.
I wonder if there are methods to prolong that sort of protective effect. I must have a talk with Desiree. Perhaps she can open up her freehold to something along those lines.
It's something that'll probably be a short-term solution rather than a long-term one, and we can't keep relying on it, he says as he rubs his eyes.
No, but a rested mind can come up with solutions much faster, don't you think?
He nods to that. Indeed, at that point, it has to be very strategic in your use. Know what you're going to be doing the next day. Although, speaking of dreams and nightmares, that is actually there's a reason why I'm here. To give you information a bit about what the matter of what's going on. Has anyone informed you of the source of these nightmares or the situation?
Well, Leon keeps us up to date with information he's been given.
He nods. So then you are aware that then you are aware of the Mara Baku relationship.
Yes, though I have never heard of Baku or Mara.
Baku, at least when I at first, before I saw it within my own two eyes, seemed to be something out of Japanese folklore. Mara I had never heard of. Or at least I remember hearing something about her, but never in that association or the balance that they maintain. But the balance has been thrown off, and I have reason to believe that there is a way we can fix it. However, we need to what needs to happen is a, for lack of a better term, conversation with the two entities. I have taken it upon myself to attempt communication with Mara.
This is the nightmare one, yes?
And Charles nods. Sorry, go ahead.
Is this going to put you in any danger?
Potentially. That's what I'm trying to hope I can mitigate. And possibly the trick of the matter is we've already had someone speak with her once. The conversation was very short and wasn't able to be maintained, but it definitely had its effects. I am trying to do something a little more dangerous, in which I'm trying to maintain a more prolonged conversation. And with that, I'm going to have to realize... He sort of sighs for a moment as he thinks for a moment. I'm going to need at least some measures of protections, or at least ways to maintain the connection without damaging myself too much. When you're speaking with Nightmare itself, I don't think it would hurt to make sure that you are, at least in some measures, prepared for it.
It seems as though they are weighing heavily on your mind. Do you need to speak of it?
And he thinks for a moment, and he shakes his head. Not right now. I have a feeling I know what the message is, and there have been a few nights I've managed to get some rest in that solace, but others not so much. I'm more concerned about Anye.
The little squire.
He nods. She was trapped in those dreams for 2 days.
That is most unfortunate.
The recommended solution was to give a surge of banality.
This is very dangerous for our Keith.
He nods. I didn't do it. That might be one reason why it was. Maybe it took a few days, but I couldn't do that to her.
Have you considered perhaps making her something that will shield her?
He rubs his eyes. I have. It's been hard to think. I've only been able to keep my mind on like one thing at a time. Whether I could help Anye, or whether I could keep her from hurting someone, or trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I speak with Mara. It's been very hard to split my attention.
It seems that these temporary solutions would offer you a great deal of comfort then.
Potentially. But I can't rely on them. And he sort of sighs for a moment. And he just rubs his eyes. There is and he sort of shakes his head. I can't I need to stay on track with what I'm here on for. It's I'm going to lose track of it if I don't. To speak with Mara, I have to know at which point in the dream she is speaking with me, and I know which point that is. I'm very certain of it. I need a few other things in order to make sure that that I'm going to be prepared for this. This is a communication with an entity that is not grounded by conventional communication or conventional magics in order to keep them sticking around. We're dealing with something of symbols and symbology, and in order to keep them around or to enhance that line of communication, a bridge needs to be made. And I have ideas, and I wanted to speak to some of the Nunnehi without assuming the cultural backgrounds of anyone. I remember when I was walking through here, I overheard them speaking Neki.
Yes, Abeneki.
Neki.
They maybe perhaps don't let them know you know.
Ah. Well, that I was hoping that, well, perhaps if that's the case, best I keep that to myself. Then I was hoping that would might maybe bridge the openings for communications, but I could see where they might take that the wrong way.
The best bridge for communicating with the Nanahi that are here is to be honest and avoid the colorful speak.
He sort of nods. Uh, as I said, I don't want to make any assumptions. The thing we're going to request, I need it to be something that is appropriate for their particular culture, their particular tribe, if that's something they're coming from. He sort of closes his eyes for a moment and focuses. Because in order for what I want to work, it needs to be something that's honest and genuine. It doesn't have to be magical. It just has to be something that has the belief and the associations associated with it. I need a dream catcher.
Then you should speak with. She thinks for a moment. I think there are 3 that come from the northeastern regions, and they should be the ones to help you. Cools the Sands is no. She says she just shakes her head. She would not. She cannot make anything but the mess. I think it's the webbed fingers, perhaps.
Then who are the other 3? Or is it other 2 at that point?
It is, there are 3. There is Kajika. She's usually in the grotto. She's very kind, but you should prepare yourself. And that's all I will say. There is. Let me look at these names real quick because I forget them. Goshevin and Shepi. They are rock giants. I think somebody may have caught a glance of Goshevin the day you were fighting the Ranters.
He was the one throwing them over, was it? It was hard to
Yes.
miss him.
He can be quite sizable if he puts his mind to it. He is usually not so towering.
Anything I should know about any of them before I speak to any of them? He sort of rubs his eyes. Just so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Kajika is the kindest and the most forgiving. I would be weary if Goshevim tries to challenge you in any way. He is a little mischievous sometimes. Cheppy is very hard to talk to. She's very angry.
I don't have the focus to. If she was my only option, I probably would. Then I would have no choice but to go to her. But and my focus isn't. My focus isn't as sharp as I would like it to be. Perhaps it would be a Kevneki, you said?
Kajika.
Kashika. See, it's already slipping names. Kashika. Kashika. Perhaps Kashika is my best choice then. At least I could have perhaps an easier conversation.
She is very kind. But yes, prepare yourself.
Any particular reason as to why?
Her appearance is unusual.
He sort of gives her a look, like not like really, but it's sort of like a sort of like a squint, because his apparently in comparison to everyone else he's met so far, he's the weirdo. They just don't understand. He's like,
This is all I will say for now. If you follow this path, she points to a path that kind of leads around a corner. She is usually in the grotto.
then I'll start there, and if that doesn't work, then I'll address the other two.
Well, I'm certain you won't miss her.
He sort of bows to her. I do have a question. I don't mean to presume. You are Hispanic. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are there any particular cultural things I should be aware of that refer to nightmares? Not necessarily warding them off, but perhaps things that either bring them or trap them.
There is El Cucuy, who would scratch the feet of children if they were misbehaving. There are a few other things here or there. If you'd like, I can perhaps compile a list for you.
That would be helpful.
If all else fails, we'll just roll an egg over you.
What's the reason for the egg?
It prevents mal ojo. Sorry, the evil eye.
Well, worst case scenario, I'll make sure there's an egg at the ready before I go to sleep. Thank you, Baroness.
Have a good day.
And with that, he bows and he starts to make his way down the grotto path.
It's a fairly long path, and probably seems longer for all the exhaustion Charles currently feels. But after about maybe 10 minutes of walking, you start hearing a song. And it is the most beautiful song you have ever heard.
Shit, I can't even sing this good.
You probably can't because it's magic.
What? I sang to the stars and the moon, Carol.
And this is the song of beckoning.
Trust in me. Anyway, sorry.
If you would like to roll to resist it for whatever reason, we can do that. But
I think at the moment Charles is a little tired.
Yeah.
So he's going to.
So yes, the song just seems to beckon, and at the moment it seems to flood away all other thoughts. What were you heading towards exactly?
Why was I here? I don't know. The music. The music. Music brings me here. I just have to find it. Who could sing so wondrously? Could I learn how to sing so sweetly? Could I sing like that. No, I couldn't sing anything like that. I sang to the stars and the moon. I could sing the song that shaped the earth, and none that would compare to what I hear now in this place, in this time.
As you follow the sound of the music, it grows louder, and it seems to be accompanied by the sound of running water and the buzz of cicadas sitting in the trees uh, along the banks of the grotto. It's a small one, not anything grand like the Selkie Grotto, but like a small brook being fed by a stream, by a spring coming from a cave wall. And there in the shadows of this cave, tending to a beautiful garden of colorful flowers, is somebody wearing a very large hoodie in the July heat, the humid, oppressive heat in Queens.
And he just doesn't seem to care or about the rushing water or the cicadas, except that it's more annoying than anything. At first it's more like it's like jarring, because it's like, how dare they sing and something so beautiful, so wondrous, so melodic, and yet at the same time it sort of melts away. Like it becomes part of the song. It's all just part of the melody, something that just incorporates and harmonizes and weaves with it, and it just brings him all that more closer, wondering, before finally he's like stepping across the brook, unaware of like his path, before he's finding himself like maybe a little too close to this individual.
The sound of your footsteps make the singing stop. And the figure tucks their hands that were tending to the garden inside the sleeves of their hoodie as they pull down the hood. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't disturb you.
And he sort of blinks now, and do you mind if I roll Greymare now to realize he was enchanted by the song? It wasn't that good at all.
Well, oh, it is a beautiful song.
It is. Yeah. It's not that good, though. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Let's see how it goes. Hey, 1 success. No, 2 successes. No, 1 success. No successes. Never mind. He just... Never mind. God damn it. It's the diff 8 that messed me up. I was thinking 7 was still the diff. So, so yeah, he doesn't really completely comprehend that he might have been enchanted. He might be a little more confused. He's like, when did I get here? Mm-hmm. And he sort of turns and he looks away, and he's like puzzling over this. It's like, I'm afraid it's me. I must apologize. I was rather enraptured by the music. I don't think I was disturbed in any way. It was quite beautiful.
Thank you. It is my song.
And a wondrous song it is. He says, I am Kararis, keeper of the diamond word. I'm sorry. I want to say Kabneki, but I don't think that's right.
No.
Kashika. I don't know why I want to say Kabneki.
Let me go ahead and throw this up so you can remember.
Kajika. Okay, there we go. Are you Kajika?
I am.
The Baroness Mariposa said I should speak to you about the matter I have. I have. Are you in? He says, and he's looking at her in the hoodie and the July heat and everything. You're not uncomfortable, are you?
Please don't worry about me.
Charles sort of shrugs. So he's like, very well. And he sort of like leans. Is there a place we could sit to discuss this, or would you prefer standing?
Anywhere you're comfortable. There's benches.
Charles goes over to sit, and it's not that he couldn't remain standing, but it's easier to sit down these days. Just it keeps from having to focus on standing and whatever he's doing at the same time. As he sits down and he brushes himself off for a moment, and he laces his fingers together as he gazes at this individual who's like, just completely covering themselves up in all matter, and he luckily doesn't have like a flaw of curiosity, but it's he's wanting to maintain some good measure of goodwill with this individual, so he's not going to force them or ask them like to remove their clothes if they're not feeling comfortable. Perhaps it's something about what Mariposa said. Her appearance is startling, and perhaps they're a little shamed about it. And now's not the time to play psychologist. No, he has a specific reason he's here, and he's not going to push anything that someone's not comfortable with. I am I have to ask, how aware are you of the nature of the nightmares that have been afflicting us?
I know that they've been very persistent. And I've been kept very busy trying to help people recover during the day. Are you here for medicine?
He shakes his... Oh, well, he sort of thinks for a moment. It's like, I don't want to make any assumptions on the culture, but I believe one would call it medicine of a kind. And as I said, I don't want to make any assumptions, but Mariposa said you were one of 3 individuals I should perhaps try to speak to about my request. To explain, the source of these nightmares are, the best way I can describe it, primordial entities. The entity that is nightmare itself, known as Mara, is the source of the nightmares plaguing us these nights. Her purpose with these nightmares, is from our research, suggests that she's supposed to be a sort of a tough love sort of thing, sort of a shock to inspire us to change something about ourselves, to improve upon ourselves if we're wise enough to understand what the message is. Her counterpart is an entity known as Baku, who is the creator of dreams, those dreams that inspire and give creativity. For a long while, they have been balanced. Only a few times would nightmares come of such potency, and in counterbalance, so too would dreams of such potency come forth. But the balance has been disrupted. Mara is in continual power.
I see.
And he sort of nods. We are trying to find a way to bring the balance back, as while some have suggested that perhaps eliminating Mara out of the equation might aid this, that is an ill-advised thing. Nightmares are dreams too. Every dream is important.
Everything in moderation.
And he sort of nods in that. There is a place for nightmares and there's a place for sweet dreams. But he sort of says, but more importantly, if you remove Mara, who is the eldest of the pair, Baku is an creature that feeds off nightmares in order to create the dreams. And if you remove Mara, Baku starves, and thus we get nothing.
She, like the hooded figure, nods. How can I help you with this?
He says, there are a few others who are working on. We have determined that in order to get a better understanding of what happened and what needs to fix this situation, is we need to communicate with the entities directly. There are a few others who are working on a method to speak with Baku. I have taken upon myself to speak with Mara. We have already determined that it is possible to do so, but maintaining a sustained conversation is spotty at best, is the best way I can put it. Not to mention speaking directly to Nightmare itself leaves one, I think, in a more fragile state than normal. So what I'm trying to do is find ways to not only maintain a conversation, but also to give myself more fortitude. And the thing when dealing with these entities of such primordial power and is the fact that they're symbols. Their messages are symbols and symbology.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to bridge the gap and to make these things, conventional magics or sorceries or cantrips, he says as he grits his teeth at that one, is not, it will be mediocre help at best. What I need is something that is a symbol itself and has the belief empowered behind it. What I need in order to make sure Mara sticks around longer is I need a dream catcher.
Oh. I haven't made one of those since I was a child.
And he sort of nods and he goes, like I said, I didn't want to accidentally just assume that any individual person would be able to do this. So my apologies if that was a bold assumption. But I would like to ask for a dream catcher if you are capable of making one. It's, even though it's been such a long time, what matters is the intent and the belief behind it.
I think I can make something. Do you need it now?
I need it by the 13th.
It shouldn't take long to make. And if you're willing to wait, I can make it for you.
Yes, he nods. I can wait. I'm not pressed in any hurry.
And she sort of like looks up to sort of take assessment of him. She's very obviously like cringing away from his like direct gaze, so she's still bearing a good portion of her face, but visible for the first time are these cloudy, faded, shriveled eyes and almost paper-like skin around them. The eyelids sort of pulled back, the skin below sagging slightly. The pallor of her skin grayish, brownish, yellowish.
I'm just gonna spend willpower here. Because that's one, it is a shock, and he's trying to maintain his composure. So I'll just do a standard willpower with spend here. to see how well he can maintain it. Oh wow, Charles, you're doing 4 successes. So with the willpower spend, so he almost imperceptibly stiffens, almost imperceptibly. Like he's sitting just slightly straighter now, but if there is any other betrayal of his reaction to having caught a glimpse of her, he doesn't really show it. But there is that image of this thing hiding under the hood, peeking out, gazing at him, even if it's just the briefest of moments. This thing, this grim reality that he's realizing he's suddenly more aware of his breathing, suddenly a little more aware of the blood that's actually pumping through him, suddenly a little more aware of his own heartbeat and how every beat is another beat to its potential last. But aside from the slight straightening of his posture, he doesn't betray any of those feelings. He just maintains something somewhat level as far as his composure is concerned.
She's studying him quite a bit, and she stands up and steps towards the cave. And she disappears for a few moments, which can give you a moment of respite from having to sort of like compose yourself from that.
Yeah, and it's as soon as she's out of way, he lets out he's doing his best in case she has a particularly good hearing, very slow, as he sort of puts his hands into his face here as he's looking into this, and he's breathes in. Because at that moment he was staring. This is what he could become. He could be just this rotting thing in the ground, gaunt and dried and withered and milked over. His life, his vitality, his essence gone. But he takes those few minutes that he gets to compose himself. Swallows. Straightens back up.
Kajika returns carrying like a very large knife, some supplies, like a bag of them, and a like kind of chipped and tattered teacup, which she offers to Charles. This should make you feel a little better.
Thank you, he says as he takes the teacup. Of course, I'm assuming her hands aren't gloved, so he's doing his best not to look at the fingers that are gripping the teacup, and he's doing his very best that while he grabs it and makes sure it's a solid grasp, not to touch her.
She's used to this sort of behavior, so she doesn't say anything of it.
But at the very least, he's like trying his best to make sure that he doesn't freak out, or at least keep a pleasantness about him as he takes it. And he takes a moment to smell breathe in the tea, or whatever the concoction is.
It's a sweet tea, like a sweet smell. You smell a hint of cinnamon, perhaps a little bit of like hibiscus and chamomile, and also kind of radiating off of it is a bit of spring magic.
He sort of takes a whiff in that. He's like, is this something of your making? As he takes a drink of it.
She nods. People have been very tired. And while I can't take away the thoughts, this at least helps take away that feeling.
And he drinks it down. I don't know if he has to drink the whole thing and before the magic comes into effect, but he's drinking it. It's like it's quite delicious, actually. I like that. The hibiscus and cinnamon, it actually plays off together really, really well. Actually, refreshing and yet sharp.
I learned it from my mother. She used to throw cinnamon and like a stick of cinnamon in every pot of tea she made.
I've been starting to get into cooking myself actually recently. Perhaps after I try it without it, perhaps I'll start doing this much the same. It adds quite something interesting, says as he takes another sip of the tea.
I think it helps remind us that we're alive.
Spice of life. He sort of thinks about that for a moment. He's like, for maybe his focus isn't completely back or anything like that, but there's some stirrings in his mind about that, the spice of life, and perhaps he'll start writing something later down the road.
Trajika walks up to a very lovely, not young sapling, but it's still a young tree. It's a dogwood tree. And she very reverently begins to stroke the bark, and she's talking to it in Abenaki.
Abneki, yeah.
Yes, Abenaki. And she's being very apologetic as she talks, and she's like, "I'm so sorry, but it'll only hurt for a moment. Thank you for your gift. I will bring something for you later. My beautiful, beautiful totem." And she pulls out her knife. She like gives it one more stroke, and she's like, "I promise this will be quick." And she very quickly severs like a branch. It's got like some flowers on it and leaves, and but it's thin enough to be flexible. And she touches the newly exposed wood where she had cut, and she brings her fingers to her lips to give it like a brief healing kiss. And she finally says, "Thank you for gracing with your beauty and shade," and returns to like the area she was sitting before, where she begins opening her supply kit. She pulls out thread and beads. She looks up to Charles. "Is there anything you would like to add to this to give it a sort of personal?"
And he's sort of still looking at it for a moment, and I honestly don't know what would be appropriate.
Some people put trinkets, or they'll write their intentions on a piece of paper and have it rolled up and tied into the web. Some people add strands of their own hair or thread from their favorite dress or clothing. Just anything that connects it to you.
He thinks about that for a moment. And he reaches up to his hair, or what we'd constitute as his hair, and he finds one of those ivy leaves that have found their way into it, and he plucks it from his hair, and he twirls it around, and he breathes, and it starts to twist a bit of its own before he hands it to her, as it's like its own vine is starting to like grow and sort of spread, like it's taking a life of its own, so that once she puts it into the net and the web, it starts to connect and twist and almost just ingrain itself right into its form.
And she'll tie it so that it can wrap both around the branch of dogwood and throughout the web, as she continues tying knots, occasionally adding beads or shells, feathers, until it's this almost crescent-shaped creation, where the web forms along, curling the branch of the dogwood, not into a perfect circle or a teardrop shape, which is what it would be if she had tried to close it, but something of the moon, something that invokes the imagery of night, but also the beauty of what is around during the summer, with shells and summer flowers and this vine that tangles around it, for only those with the sight for glamour can see. This is for you.
And he takes it very gently, and not because, I mean, granted, he still doesn't necessarily want to touch her, but he's taking it very gently because this is something that, having listened to her and seen her work, she's poured a lot of herself into this, and this is something that's precious, something that's he needs. So to show it any less than respect would be more an egregious insult. It's remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me company.
He nods, and he takes the tea and he drinks the rest of it down. And thank you for telling me the secret of cinnamon in tea, as he hands the cup back over to her.
And she gently takes the cup. As she reaches for it, you can tell that she has a frailty that extends not just to her like desiccated appearance, but she lacks much strength. Perhaps this cup is so chipped because it's been dropped so many times.
And Charles makes sure he keeps a hold of it, like not like he's gonna like hold on to it, but until she like has a firmer grasp on it, even if that might result in him having to brush his hand against her. He's doing his very best to keep hold of his composure there, and eventually he does let go once he's certain that she's got a grip on it.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. And I hope perhaps I'll hear your song again one day.
Well, I hope so too. It would be lovely to have the company. Very few people besides the young Baroness speak to me on a regular basis.
Well, that depends. Would you like me to come back?
I always welcome company.
That's not what I asked.
And she, like, there's sort of a tilt of the head, which, like, the hood falls back a little more.
And I'm still flowing with his result here, in which it's like, at least I know what's here. So,
And she looks up and tries to give like a slight grin, but the mouth just isn't quite right. Too many teeth are missing. Those that are left are yellow and obviously soon to go.
Mm.
But there is no malice behind this grin, no intent to frighten.
Mm.
As these clouded eyes stare at your own stained glass. I would like very much for you to keep me company for as long as you feel comfortable.
And he gives a smile in return. And it's him keeping that sort of thing. And in his mind, it's he thinks he will come back. Maybe this will be a good reminder for him of his own impending mortality, even if it's a visage of things. But if you at least make some good tea. And he just smiles, those diamond fang smiles. And there's no malice there. And it's as kind as he can try to make it. And he goes, I think after this is all, I think I'll come back after my conversation with Mara, and we can discuss how this helped. And perhaps we'll have another conversation that's of less pressing matters.
Well, I welcome your company.
I do know the word for thank you. I don't wish that to be rude if I say it. But in Abenaki he does say thank you.
And she says, "You're welcome," back in the language.
Mm. And at that he gets up and he takes his dream catcher, and he's taking very measured steps to walk. Not like he's can't move too quickly, can't move too slowly. Just like gotta stay steady, walking, pace away.
Singing will resume, but it isn't the same song of beckoning that you heard earlier. Just a song to be sung.
Excuse me. Maybe that's another opportunity for him to have a gray mare roll. So let's see if he makes it this time. Nope, no successes. So he's probably a little overwhelmed, because now at least he can drop the pleasantry and there's just this hollowed expression on his face as he's walking away of this thing that he's had to see, this specter of death that ironically shows this compassion, this kindness. Mariposa wasn't lying when she said she was kind. Oh. But it was right. She couldn't prepare him for what he was seeing, what she was. But I will come back, he mutters to himself as he looks at the dream catcher and looks at the belief she's poured into it, something abysmal in his own ivy growing and curling around it. And he can already see the pattern that it's made, something uniquely his and yet hers within it, like a maze to keep them there. There is an exit, yes there is, but only when he says so. And he can see that as he strokes the one area on the ivy where it curls away and reveals the small gap before it curls back into place once again. Or this isn't something to trap Mara. At least not for a extended period of time, not to keep her trapped forever, but at least to keep her in place long enough, just long enough for that conversation. He sighs and makes his way out.
And this is where we'll end our scene. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. And we'll see you next time.